Hi and welcome to another DIY video blog. The last time I spoke about that book. Now, I still maintain it's great, well worth getting. But there's not much point in having that book unless you have a really basic set of tools. Now, how basic? That's the question. You can get away with very, very little. Now, I have a pretty decent selection of tools, but I'm unusual in that respect. I've been gathering tools for about 20 years now, so I have a pretty decent toolbox. Some of it needs to be replaced at this stage, but not all of it. That said, there are some basics, things that you should absolutely have in a very simple basic toolbox that goes underneath your sink and is only used when necessary. Okay, so for a start, measuring tape. Always have a measuring tape. At a pinch, a dressmaker's measuring tape will work. You can pick up a measuring tape in a Eurosaver store, or I don't know what the equivalent of them are outside of Europe. Probably Walmart's or something like that. But they're not expensive, and they're great for measuring accurately. Hammer. This was a hammer bought in a Euro-pound store about 4 years ago. Now that one's not in great condition. I have got the second one, and this one was bought again in a Euro-pound store, but it was bought, I suppose, a slightly better one and not expensive. I think that was about €4. I think that one was about €5, and they're perfectly fine. I mean, the average person using a hammer in a home is going to be using it to put up a picture, hang a picture, or maybe they might be pushing dowels into a piece of IKEA furniture. For that, that's perfectly fine. I mean, for myself, that's the hammer that I use the most, which is a 16-ounce ball pen hammer. Most people don't have a use for one of these. I do. I wouldn't advise this for a basic toolkit. I would advise this. For one thing, it's lighter, so when you're banging whatever you're banging, you're going to hit it softer, which means you're less likely to do damage. You're less likely to miss what you're aiming at. And because it's a little bit smaller, it'll force you to take your time and be careful. Junior hacksaw. Useful for cutting everything, and I mean everything. You can use it for cutting electric cabling, you can use it for cutting thin wood, you can use it for cutting pieces of tubing. It's just useful, and especially if you're this is a tool especially that if you're a modder and you like taking Nerf guns and making them into like props, you're going to want one of these. They're cheap, £2 or £3. They're easy to get replacement blades for. They will cut just about anything up to relatively soft steel. It takes time and it takes effort, but they will work. Screwdrivers. You should have at least one Phillips, preferably two sizes, one kind of the average size and one a little bit smaller. Flathead screwdriver, again, try and get two different ones. And if you only have space or money for one, get a little electrician's one. They're usually phase testers, or they're like this. They're a solid block electrician's screwdriver. And the reason I say that is you're most likely to be using these to change plugs or to change light fittings. And that being the case, you're better off having something that's going to work really well for that. A vice grips and a needle nose pliers. Now, most people would say just get a regular pliers. No, get a needle nose pliers. They're more flexible. You'll be able to use them for more things, and they're cheap. They're easy to get. Again, this was I think I bought this with a set of tools in a thrift store about 12 years ago. These are great because with a hammer, especially a claw hammer, you have that so you can pull nails. You can, but there's a knack to pulling nails without damaging what you're pulling the nails out of. Whereas using this, grip, yank. It'll allow you to twist the nail to break the grip of the wood on it, makes it easier. And it also means that with one of these or with one of these, you can twist screws that have lost the head out of the material without destroying the material. It takes patience, but you can do it. Vice grips have a load of uses. In this house, they're actually mostly used for opening up nail glue bottles. You think I'm joking, but I'm not. A vice grips is great for when you need a lever handle on something and you need it not to come off no matter what. Right now, one of these is working as a flush handle on our toilet upstairs because I broke, I think, the third toilet handle since we moved in here. So there's one of these on that. It does not move. It flushes the toilet and that's all it does. I don't have to worry about it springing off. And that's what these are great for. Aside from that, a saw. Okay, now this one's a little bit unusual. It's pretty much the only saw I have easy access to the moment. We rearranged the entire... Oh, hang on. Never mind. Here we go. Okay. This is a tenon saw. It has a really stiff blade because it's reinforced back here. It has a very comfortable handle. This is a Draper one. They're available in B&Q for about €12. Now, why I like these saws. There's a real skill to sawing a straight line. You don't pick up a saw and immediately saw a straight line. You're not going to do it. It takes practice and it takes time. But with a short tenon blade, you're going to be able to cut anything up to 3" by 3" quite easily. Which is basically most of what you're going to be working with for the average person. Generally speaking, if you're sawing something, it's going to be dowels, it's going to be pieces of maybe PVC tubing, it's going to be 2x1 or 2x2 strip wood. It's unlikely you're going to be cutting anything particularly large. And because of that, one of these is ideal. It's short, which means you use short movements. And that means you can actually have a degree of precision without having too much experience. And that's great. They're also cheap, which means if you make absolute crap of one of these, it's not going to break the bank. Now, all that said, if you've used one of these for a while and you're actually quite good at using a saw, you have two choices. You have the traditional push saw, which is okay. They're what I trained on, and they're not bad. I mean, they're a good saw, but they have one major flaw, which is when you push, they can flex, and they can flex a lot. The end result is you can get jumping, you can get jarring, you can tear the actual fabric of the wood you're cutting instead of actually sawing it. It's quite easy to have one of these jump out of what you're cutting and cut yourself. I'm not a big fan of these. I think they're technology that is past the sell-by date. These, on the other hand, this is a pull saw, and it's based off of a Japanese design. The idea of this is it cuts on the pull stroke rather than on the push. And by cutting on the pull stroke, it allows you to keep a straighter line, a tighter line. It isn't going to jump, it isn't going to flex, although these are incredibly flexible saws. It's not going to flex when you're pushing through. It allows you to, when you're creating that initial little furrow that you use to get up to speed, you're pushing forward rather than pulling, which means you're able to make sure that it's in line with the line you're cutting. Wonderful tool. This one cost me about €15 10 years ago. I bought it in Lidl of all places. I had a much better one, but someone who will remain nameless decided to saw into wood that had a nail in it, splayed the teeth out this way, and sheared them all off on one side. End result was it was utterly unrepairable, and I just got rid of it. These are a bit... I suppose technically these are a bit more advanced, but actually they're not. I think these are the saw that should just be used in general. This is what you should use to cut. So if you can get that. And that's pretty much it. So if you're short of space and you're short of money and you need a really small toolbox, that's what you should get. You don't need a lot. You're not going to be doing a lot in all likelihood. And if you are, you probably know someone that you can borrow a more comprehensive toolkit off of. And that's it. So I hope this has been helpful to someone. I hope you enjoyed watching it. And I will talk to you all again soon. Bye.